Hey everybody, welcome to Topline, episode I believe 74. Is it 74?
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm joined by Asad Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency, not a founder, and AJ Bruno, the CEO of QuotaPath, who is a founder, and Mark Kosoglow, the former Chief Revenue Officer at Catalyst and Outreach, I think. Was that your title at Outreach? Or very senior salesperson at least. And now
SVP of Global Sales.
SVP of Global Sales. That's important for a $200+ million business. And then actually we've got you on because I ran into you at SaaS Open earlier today, right? And I realized I'd heard that GTM Fund was incubating a company called Operator.ai, but I didn't realize that was your company. And so this is coming out on a Sunday. So on Tuesday at SaaStr, you're formally announcing the launch of Operator.ai, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. Yeah, we got a bunch of people signed up. We're hosting a happy hour at SaaStr, and we're going to let the world know about funding, the company in general, and start the whole early wait list type of stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so this is literally the first place in the universe that people are hearing about Operator.ai if they're listening before Tuesday. Would you agree with that?
This is the first time I've talked about it publicly. Yes. So breaking news to you, Sam. You got the scoop.
Welcome to Topline, the podcast for the best founders, operators, and investors in B2B tech. Every week, AJ Bruno, Asad Zaman, and me, Sam Jacobs, will break down what's important for you to know to be the most well-informed professionals in the market.
What do the revenue leaders at Google, 3M, IBM, Shopify, Square, and Cisco have in common? Their teams all use SalesLoft to hit their number. SalesLoft is the only platform that's designed for the way revenue teams work every day, so sellers can prioritize and take the right actions to get more deals done, from prospecting and deal management to coaching and forecasting. No more guesswork, no more wasted time on non-selling activities. Follow SalesLoft on LinkedIn to learn more.
But I noticed, Mark, it's not founder.ai. So, we're going to talk of Asad, do you have a problem with that, or you're good? You're good with
He's got a beef with it. All right, Mark, so first of all, just tell us what is Operator.ai, because I thought it was really interesting and maybe not what everybody expects. So give us the overview.
Yeah, I think in general, you'll see on Tuesday, I'm going to launch a manifesto. And in that manifesto, the gist of it is I feel somewhat responsible, and salespeople should feel somewhat responsible in general for the current state of affairs of outbound and pipe gen. We've entered into an age of the great ignore. And the reason is because we hit the automation button over and over and over again. We mashed it till it was broken. And now the entire internet is against us trying to get in touch with people that we want to help. And partially because we've been so annoying in doing that. And the proof of that, why do we have GDPR, CCPA, DNC lists? It's because we went out of control. And, my role at Outreach makes me feel somewhat responsible for that. Now, we'll say we were very careful at Outreach of talking to our customers the right way, creating default settings that prevented this kind of stuff, but people figured out how to use it in a destructive way for the rest of outbound. And also in a way, think about it, Outreach is a victim of its own success. The more and more people that use it, more and more people that use technology like it, the less and less it's going to be effective because more and more activities are going to be piling up on top of people. And so my job at Operator, I view as how do we take us from 20 touches to get somebody interested back down to 2? When I started at Sales, Sam, I didn't have LinkedIn. So I had to go to offices and ask people who was in charge. I didn't have Zoom info. So I had to guess at or figure out their phone numbers and email addresses. And maybe I sent a few creepy letters to people's home addresses from Yellow Pages. And I had to figure out with my own business acumen and intelligence and creativity and uniqueness, how I was going to make the 1 or 2 times I actually got in touch with this person count enough to hook them into a conversation where we could start to talk about their challenges and problems. And I think that we've lost the ability to do good research, to connect the dots, to figure out what's interesting, and then to do something in a way where we are working on a list that is smaller, but much more likely to convert rather than doing the lazy man's better, which is more. Oh my God, this list isn't we need to do better, y'all. Make the list bigger. Oh my God, our emails aren't working. Y'all, instead of doing the hard work of making the emails better, let's send out more. Oh, let's hire some kind of robo dialer, some AI SDR. We are in a curse of more right now, and what we really need is better.
And so I think we can all agree with that. And first of all, I'm sure Asad and AJ appreciate that you are acknowledging some culpability when given your time at Outreach for ruining it for the rest of us. Unfortunately, your apology, such as it is not accepted. And
fair.
We're still angry with you. But what does Operator.ai actually do? Because it's a data platform, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us exactly what the actual features are.
Yeah, so fundamentally, we believe that basic account and contact data has become a commodity and it's worthless. In order to be congruent with ourselves in that belief, therefore, we can't charge for something that's worthless. So we'll be giving away basic account and contact data for free, including email addresses, titles, phone numbers, LinkedIn URLs, all the basic crap that people are paying way too much money for right now and not getting results even though they have. Wow. Right? The second thing that we're doing is we're saying, listen, that data isn't enough anymore. There's hard to find unique bits of data that we can find at scale right now using AI. If your AI agent is smart enough, and we've built an AI agent that takes several AIs, pits them against each other, uses them for cost effectiveness, challenges them themselves for accuracy. And we can go get now very interesting bits of data that you can use. Now, we all know if you've been in sales for any time, if I give a rep a spreadsheet with a bunch of values on it, and I add more columns, they ignore everything. It looks just like black and white, flat nothingness. So what we have to do is we have to do the work then of the business, what somebody with high business acumen has, which is when we look at each entity, the person or the company, and we have this data in this row, what does it tell us? And that's where we have trained another AI that can find what's interesting in that row. But just because we found something interesting doesn't mean it's as interesting enough to say, hey, we should talk to you. So we set an interest level. If the company doesn't meet that interest level, then we recommend that you remove them from your list and use another data set to find something more interesting, but find a more compressed, higher converting list. And then lastly, we don't want to be engine, we want to be fuel. So we'll enable our customers to shuffle that insight off into AI engines right now that are doing a bad job because they're running on bad fuel. And so if I send, let me give you a proof of concept, Sam, you'll find this interesting. Just ran a bunch of data that combined hiring data, employee engagement data, website traffic data, and a couple other things. And we found out that in general, the last 2 times a set of 100 companies had changed a marketing leader, their website traffic had dipped on average 30%. So how do you avoid that if you're about to hire a new leader? Well, now we can go find a list of people that are about to get hired and we can tailor a message that says, listen, do you know on average that the last 2 times somebody's changed marketing leader, their traffic's gone down 30%. Oh, by the way, you've gone down 50% your last. So we know that's super interesting because it's an outlier. It's a standard deviation away from the average. And so we can use this very interesting information to reach out in a very specific, tailored way that creates a situation where somebody's attracted into a conversation with us. And not to talk too much, but let me give you one last story. Here's what's going on right now because of this great ignore. People are becoming insulated. They're talking to a small group of people about what their ideas and things are. And when we do that, we know we get inbred ideas that aren't as creative and interesting. Diversity of thought and having a ton of people you talk to is what it is. What creates the best ideas. And part of that has always been salespeople that are out there talking about these things. Well, as we ignore more and more conversations with salespeople, we become more and more insulated. And so what we have to do is we have to change that. And so I drive the same car that I bought when I started at Outreach. It's a 2014 Ford Flex. I had 4 kids at the time. I was tired of minivans, and my kids hate it. They call it the toaster. But you know what? It's paid for. It's never in the shop, and it's big enough that if I need to throw something in the back, I can't. So Dad's not buying another car. I don't care if you hate it or not. Except for my friend introduced me to a guy 2 streets over. I go talk to him about, he's a barbecue guy, so we're talking about barbecue stuff. Then I noticed this beautiful Jaguar he has in his garage. And we start talking about it, and he's educating. There's only 250 of these made. Only 125 still exist. This and this. I'm starting to get interested because I'm learning. Then he's like, see this Porsche Cayenne? I buy Porsche Cayennes and I refurbish it. Look at this, blah, blah, blah. It's the best year ever. It's the pinnacle of the design. Well, guess who 3 days later buys a fucking Porsche Cayenne from me? But was I doing any kind of, did I have any kind of intent to buy before that? No. Was I putting out any signals that car dealerships could target me with? No. If somebody had called me about buying a car or sent me an email about it, would I have answered it? No. But you know what? Because he said interesting enough stuff, I was attracted into a conversation where he helped me understand my problem, gave me a solution, helped me figure out how to do the solution, and boom, the next thing you know, I'm a customer. And that's what we're missing right now because so many people are ignoring salespeople.
So one last question, and then I'll open it up to my estimable colleagues. But if I'm understanding correctly, your point is contact information to contact somebody is a commodity. This is data that helps create more interesting messages that will yield higher conversion rates and better conversations that are personalized to the specific account and maybe to the value proposition that is relevant to the product that you're selling.
Account in person, yes. And then the only other thing I'd add, Sam, is just like, we don't want to create a list of 10,000 companies that you hope to say something that you hope will get some kind of reaction. We're going to help you understand what part of that list of 10,000 should you actually be concentrating on. And because we can shuffle that idea off to other AI engines, you can build a very aligned sales and marketing funnel that converts highly. Imagine if you sent that insight off to an AI ad writer, an AI keyword buyer, an AI sequence creator, an AI landing page creator, an AI blog posting. You now have this complete alignment around accounts that you actually have something interesting to say to. As a salesperson, I used to sell stuff to schools. I wouldn't go to schools where I didn't have anything to say. It was a waste of my time. But you know what we do now? Because we can automate, we send that person an email and do a bunch of phone calls anyway. It's just damaging everything.
I noticed that Asad put on his glasses. And I needed to put on mine so that all
wearing glasses.
Could put on our glasses just you can take it off now, Asad. Asad looked very studious. Mark, thanks for sharing some of that. I got kind of a couple quick questions to set the context. So you mentioned this concept of rows, and it feels like that's a dynamic thing that it's like there's an automatic deletion, I guess, if it's like checking off or doesn't fit some sort of criteria. Is that correct? Or can you give like better context on what you mean by rows?
Yeah, so when you're building a list, it's a spreadsheet. So what I mean by a row is like the entity on that row. It could be a person or it could be a company, but we do have like an overarching AI that we call the operator. And the operator's job is to help be that growth hacker on your shoulder that's helping you be a little bit more creative, helping you have some business acumen, helping you decide, is this a good list for me to use, or should I shrink it down, or should I add to it a little bit? And so that's sort of what we need to guide people with. Listen, I know a bunch of growth hackers that I've talked to since I've started doing this project, and I can give me, who I think understands outbound really well, and get X results with that list. These growth hackers are getting 5, 6, 7, 10X the results with the same list that I would take and not get that. And the reason is because they're just a little more creative, a little more discerning, they're a little more tactical. The good ones. The bad ones are just like, we'll throw a million people in here and hopefully something happens. But like, I think that's where we're headed is we've blown out the list and now we're going to shrink back down, and you better have a great strategy for being very relevant.
Sure. But when you say are you specifically talking about a sales rep, a BDR, an MDR, sales ops? Like, is this an automated, one person can just handle all of the list because it's shrunken down? Like, who is you in this story?
Our target user and customer is RevOps. I think RevOps is supposed to give 3 things to the sales team: a great list of accounts that can convert, the right people to reach out to have conversations, and then the insights needed to break through the noise to get in front of that person. Those are all scalable things that a RevOps person can provide the salesperson, so the salesperson can go do the work then of getting the conversations.
So in this like idea of like hero, is the RevOps person the hero of the story, or the one that's...
I did a post about 2 or 3 months ago where I said that I believe that RevOps is the future of go-to-market. I think that the RevOps people will be more highly paid than AEs soon, maybe in the next year or 2. And I think that ultimately that connector, that the brain behind everything, is the one that's going to really create these systems that actually work in the future, because I think we've just reached the end of the rope where we can hire enough good sellers that we can trust and train the right way to do things in a way other than hitting the easy button over and over again and trying to always solve with volume.
Yeah, you don't have to sell me on RevOps. They're at the central figure of our story. But we had the founders of Clay on a couple months ago, and it does have similar trappings to like how Clay, or at least Clay operates. I'm trying to visualize your product in a prescriptive. I signed up on your list, by the way, while we were talking. All so right. I'm on the list. But would you, I guess you've probably went and did all of the research, and I know you know the outreaches of the world like very, very well, but this is a different ball game. Like this is a totally different side of the problem. It's actually working against the problem that you helped create, as you said. So what did you, like from a research standpoint, obviously knowing like this is just an overload in our inboxes. By the way, I look at every single cold email. Asad has gotten his emails down to like 10. I look at every single one, the 250, and I refuse to unsubscribe from lists because of how important they could be.
That's so crazy, AJ. That's so crazy.
it's a low use of efficient time.
AJ, it's so funny. I have found that there's two camps. And camp one is there's 2 or 3 bits of good information in these 200 emails, and I'm okay to wade through it to find it. And then there's the other person that's like, I'm going to wait. I'm not even going to pay attention to the 2 or 3 bits if I don't have to wade through 200 emails. And my research suggests that there's more people still scanning emails because they're afraid they're going to miss something than there are on the side. But, I think that that's a behavior that is becoming more and more common because we're just getting so much email we can't process it.
I mean, it's crazy when I get, like, if I had a leader on the team leave and I get forwarded their emails, how many times I get duplicate emails because it's this same email. It's so I was like, oh, we were subscribed to the same list. That's great.
And then they subscribe to some ridiculous things and you're like, when were you working? Like, why are there so many concert emails coming to your work email? I get really annoyed by that. Yeah, like I'm really curious about that. Does this sit as a competitor to Clay, and the difference is who you guys are going after, maybe in terms of size of client or type of customer? Or is there a differentiation between Clay and what you guys are doing?
I think there's some differentiation. I think that Clay, a couple of things about it is, one is if you read their founders, some of their posts, they talk about their job was to make programming easier for people and coding easier. That's like what they started with. They've had a few pivots from my understanding as well. And they've landed on, I think, a very interesting concept, which is an API-enabled spreadsheet. However, what I've found and people I've talked to is they feel like they've offloaded some of their technical complexity to their users. And you can be like somebody really intelligent, like a Jordan Crawford, who's I think a huge Clay hero. Jordan can work magic inside of Clay, but Jordan is like a top 0.1%er. And I think what we're trying to do is we're going to tackle that technical complexity problem for the user. So it's more of an everyman's tool. The other thing about Clay is, my arch nemesis, Adam Robinson, and people like him are just using it to over automate everything. I just, at this conference, Sam, I don't know if you were in the one session where they were talking about like we've over relied on automation and we've pushed it to the total extreme. And you know what? Like if now we have 17 tools that tell us when a new VP of sales gets hired, and then we find out that everybody's automated stuff and they sent that over to Clay, enriched it all, put it in an outreach, automated the thing. And guess what? We now have 10,000 companies reaching out to the one person that just hired as a VP of sales, all through automated messaging. Like that, it just doesn't work, right? That can't be what it is. And ultimately, like we're all when I left my job as CRO at Outreach or at Catalyst, I'm the CFO at the Kosoglow family, the chief fund officer. Do you know how many CFO and financial tool emails I got over the next 3 months? Hundreds. Yeah. And it says on there, chief fund officer. I didn't care. And
but maybe you were just saying that finance is fun.
Maybe I was. Maybe it is. I don't think so.
I guess the question I'm thinking of, because it's obviously very interesting. Like what you're saying, I find it fascinating what you guys are trying to do, because I agree that there was this over automation and the tools right now, I don't think are enabling elite sales. and they actually feed to sales reps' worst tendencies and their managers' worst tendencies, which is when you're under pressure, you press what you were calling the easy button. It feels like the right move in that instance. The pressure is never going away. That's by nature part of the job, especially in tech where growth targets are so high. And so you need better technology that is designed to make you do the right parts of the game yourself, but give you information to do it really well. And so when we had the Clay founders on, one of the questions we asked them is, what about copywriting, right? Like, it seems like with Clay, a lot of this becomes automated to the point where it's about a certain message at the right time to the right person. That's the most powerful thing we can do. But it just takes away the fact that a well-written message has more alpha in it than a badly written message. And so am I reading this correctly where you're saying what I want to do is I want to get all this information and give it to a person, and the person is now going to figure out what should I say? How should I say it? Or are you guys also incorporating some AI magic and the emails are going to be AI written emails, and maybe the rep is going to go in and customize them a little bit to make it semi-AI-ish, but it's still an AI-driven message? Like where do you guys fall on that spectrum?
Listen, we're just getting started. So there's a lot of still unanswered questions and probably wrong thinking that we're doing right now. But I don't want to be an engine. And I think of an email writer as an engine. I want to be fuel. And if you give a decent AI email writer good fuel, it writes good emails. If you give it crappy fuel and just let it do what it wants to do, it writes bad emails. One of the things I've learned since we're so AI native as a company is that, if you ask the right question and you give an AI a constrained data set to find the answer, it does pretty darn good work. But most people don't know how to do that. And they're just giving it a bunch of garbage and letting it go out and do whatever it wants. I remember the first time my daughter, who was an SDR, came to me, he's like, Dad, I need to write better emails. I'm like, well, let's try ChatGPT. And we loaded up a bunch of people in there and we had it write a whole bunch of messages around hobbies because that was working for her. And guess what it did? It wrote a bunch of great emails. And then when I was like, how do you know that Sam Jacobs likes cooking? It's like, I don't. But people like Sam Jacobs like cooking. So I just made a guess, but it didn't tell me that. That's because you didn't give it that constrained parameters over which to write the rest.
People that know how to use AI will get better results than people that don't know how to use AI. And you guys can be supportive and say, okay, maybe we just create these constraints in the back end so that the average quality goes up compared to Bobby creating a ChatGPT account himself. But you've managed great salespeople. And you've managed bad salespeople and some people in between. Do you think that the email that with constraints and the right guardrails, etc., that can come out of this technology will be better than the best rep you've ever hired, the person who is best at cold outreach? Like, are we raising the floor? Are we raising the roof? Like, what's the answer to that?
Raising the floor. I don't think that we're going to raise the roof much. This is what I think is that my hope would be if I give a rep a specific person with a specific insight, they would hopefully have enough wherewithal to construct a message, whether that's a cold call, an email, or whatever, to reach out to that person. I know that that's probably not going to be how most people want to use it, but I think that's still like me spending 2 minutes taking an insight and figuring out how I want to wrap it around a message that I want somebody to be attracted into a conversation with. I don't think AI that I've seen anywhere is good enough at doing that yet, that you should just, live on that as a GTM org.
Yeah. Is the risk then that because so much of what we build for go-to-market is dependent on how people use it, that kind of the same thing that happened with outreach happens, which is the users use it in the worst way possible, which is you just created spray and pray tech 2.0. Like, is that the thing that keeps you up at night?
So a couple of things is, listen, spray and pray is bad because the messages are bad. If spray and pray were good, then nobody would call it spam. They would enjoy it, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you don't get spray and pray without also being crappy messaging. If you're sending great messaging to tons of people, people respond and it works really great. So I don't think spray and pray is a problem. I think the problem is the messaging, and that's the part that I'm trying to solve. And honestly, like so it's funny. One lesson I learned from outreach was, in its own success is its own failure. Well, part of the AI I'm building to find what's interesting and rate how interesting it is how often am I serving this up to other customers? And if I've served it up to 100 other customers, guess what? It ain't so interesting anymore. Now I need to downgrade it. Yeah. So I've built my own safety mechanism into my own product to make sure that I'm not giving 1,000 companies the same exact interesting stuff that everybody's going to use.
Yeah, that's smart. And just taking it a little bit towards like the builder side of this for a second, a lot of people, they come out of these operator roles and they want to do what you did, which is they say, I want to go build a thing. I want to go be a founder. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. And the thing that they feel challenged by is that the idea that they come up with, it doesn't feel defendable enough. It's like, this is, Zoom will just add this functionality. Clay is already doing this. Outreach will pivot to this. Like, it's not defendable enough. And we as commercial people feel insecure that we're not engineers. And so we can't build the most defendable thing because we're not engineers. And so then they just get disheartened and they don't do it. A lot of what you've said is super interesting. Listen, I'm scared by some of it and I'm actually quite attracted to some of it. But I think
that's the best thing.
Fundamentally, it's not something that sounds extra defendable today, but you gained the confidence to step over and say, I'm still going to do this. There's a company here to build. Talk to us a little bit about how to think about that mental challenge that other great CROs are going through today. How should they think about this?
Yeah. So listen, the first part is I didn't want to be a founder. Max Altschuler and I have been friends for a long time. He founded GTM Fund. He came to me and said, I want to incubate a company inside the fund. Would you run it? My first reaction was no, but he knew me well enough to say, listen, go talk to some people and see if this is a good idea. After 20, 30 conversations, I started to come up with an opinion. And then I started to get passionate about what I thought. And I started to think of solutions. 20 conversations more, now I'm starting to pitch this solution and people are starting to respond to it. And now I'm kind of hooked, right? And so, listen, I think one of the things that has helped me as a leader is I have a stupid, corny saying that says, we think beats me think. Because if me has to think of all the ideas, we are going to lose. And so, like, I don't have any attachment to my ideas. What I have an attachment to is the fact that like things are really messed up and there's got to be a way to find our way out of it. And so like, if my co-founder, if one of my engineers, if a customer, if in a casual conversation, something seems like it should be explored, that's something that I would run a thought exercise and explore it. And I think that it's funny what we pitched our seed investors with, our pre-seed investors with, and what we're doing right now are fairly different. And I'm sure that's a fairly common thing for a lot of people, but like we're embracing that. And we have no like real owner, don't feel like a ton of ownership. So like, listen, for defensibility, I heard about the founder roller coaster. Like in the morning, you feel great. By 10 a.m., you feel like shit. By noon, you feel great again. By 3 p.m., you feel like it's all falling apart. And by dinner time, hopefully you've leveled out enough to go back to the kids and not be an ass, right? Like
confirmed.
Yes.
I'm not a founder, so I wouldn't know.
No, I heard that. Yeah. I heard that's a rumor.
Not a founder.
But you know what?
He's a professional manager.
Professional manager.
Here's what I learned.
You have to go read this essay. You'll understand the thing when you read the essay. This is all about the founder mode essay.
Oh, gotcha. So I learned on that roller coaster really quickly, Asad, that the reason I was on it was because I think I had to build something that never existed in the world. And when I look at all of these other companies that are doing well, like let's look at Zoom. Zoom did pretty well. That shit existed a million times. Did they do anything special with it? Not really. And, so listen, I think that if you build a great product that's easy to use and delivers value, you're going to win. And defensibility, hopefully it'll be built in there and there's some reasons for that. And if somebody else copies it, guess what? You got to do something else. Everybody copies everything. Like,
I like what you're saying.
Is full of copycats.
If you were scared of Clay, like at the end of the day, what does Clay have? Like probably 10 million in revenue, right? Like the category hasn't been won yet. They have a little bit of a lead, but the category hasn't been won. It's different if you're going into CRM, right? You better have a brand new way of doing CRM if you're going into CRM because there's an incumbent that owns the category there. But I think in all these other categories, somebody who has like a few $1 million shouldn't keep you up at night. Like there's a fight to fight, there's market share. Again, if you feel that the category is a vibrant one, then it has to be a category that has more than $10 million worth of revenue in it. So most of it seems to be untapped. And it's like, let's go fight it out. That makes a lot of sense. Can I ask you about your beef with Adam?
Hit me up.
Okay. I want to ask in the fairest way possible. So I guess
I would appreciate, can I, what if you asked in an unfair way? I would be interested in that.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Like, I want to be fair. Like, okay. So let me ask you what people that are not asking you questions are thinking, and you can tell them where your logic came from. Because
Asad, real quick, can we get context to the whole thing? I can't imagine that all of our listeners...
Everyone knows. They wouldn't know. Okay, there's a guy called Adam Robinson.
We're telling a narrative. You got to tell
beef.
Story tell this, please, at least for 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay. Sam, why don't you story tell it?
I don't really understand. I just know that they're fighting.
Yeah.
Mark can explain it. It's something about Adam thinks that... Well, why don't you explain it, Mark? I just know that you guys are fighting, but that you're actually friends.
Yeah, so here's the deal is Adam and I were on a webinar a couple months ago, I think with Jason Bay. And when I get on a webinar now, I won't do prep sessions, but I will get on 10 minutes early. And when I get on 10 minutes early, this is what I say every single time. Listen, I will not say, I agree with what Adam just said and regurgitate what he just said and kiss his ass. I will, for the sake of intellectual honesty, take a point of view that may not even agree with, just so that listeners can listen to something interesting and you can see both sides of the story. And Adam was like, let's go. Well, in that webinar, unfortunately, there was some other person that talked a little bit, but Adam and I just duked it out over Bootstrap versus VC. And then, after that, he started doing some posts and he's like, hey, Mark said I'm a hater because, Mark is a hater because he said inbound led outbound has been around. I'm like, dude, yeah, it's been around. That's just called marketing. There's no inbound led outbound. I was like, quit reading, play bigger. And actually think of an original idea, or just say, I help you do marketing, right? And he's like, oh, I'm doing this unique stuff. And I was like, dude, I can tell you 20 other founders that did this before you, and here they are, right? And so we kind of went back and forth. And then the culmination to me is, or the pinnacle has been, he released a diss track to Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us on me. I went a little low on it. So I just today dropped my diss track, which is unique, is original music, original lyrics. I didn't borrow somebody else's thing, like he's borrowing marketing terms.
So Mark, now let me ask you the question. So as you were explaining that, in the first part, I'm like, that's the Mark we all knew, the person who wants intellectual rigor and is willing to have thoughtful, intelligent conversations. That was the brand. That was your brand. You were considered as one of the most respected CROs, SVPs, go-to-market leaders in the ecosystem by people at companies across all sizes and stages. That's different to Adam's brand. Really? Adam's brand is 2 to 10 person companies, right? And he has a particular go-to-market strategy, which is very antagonistic. So him wanting to loop you into this fight makes a lot of sense. But you getting into it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so the people think that it's just fake beef, that you guys were like, let's just do this. And it's like, let's be Logan Paul and KSI, but older and B2B. And we're going to generate a bunch of impressions and a bunch of energy. And we're going to get some leads and we're going to get some attention. And it's going to be great. And I think everybody understands why he's doing it. Nobody understands why you're doing it. What's the ROI in it for you? Because you are actually building a venture funded business. Will every investor look at that and be like, great, that's fantastic? And has it been that beneficial to you, right? You have a wait list. You could have filled that wait list up with the old Mark. Did you have to get into something that is going to be polarizing by default? So for me, I think that the thing that people are confused about is your group of people that probably had a lot of respect for you was larger than Adam's. in terms of the width of it. And now you've created a polarization where some love what you're doing, but others have been turned off. Others have been turned off. And they might be some good future customers of yours. So why are you doing this? Like, what's your ROI?
My first thing is I like to have fun. Like when I coached my kids in sports, when they went off to their thing, that's the number one thing I say is work hard and have fun. I tell all my sales team that, work hard and have fun. Part of it is it's just fun. Like, can I just have fucking fun with somebody and represent two sides of an argument in a fun, interesting way and let people come to their own conclusion? Second thing is, do you know, like half the stuff that I write on LinkedIn that I think is really good, there's not most, but there's a certain percentage of people that tell me it's stupid. So you can't win anyway. You just have to forget all that stuff. I don't care about the reaction anymore. I don't think about the downstream stuff. I do what interests me and what's fun for me, and my audience either finds it's fun or not. If I lose some audience, that's fine. But I'll tell you this, I think I've added 10% to my followers since all this started. So it's been hugely beneficial to me in expanding my reach and my audience. So like, and then part of it too is like,
the right people, right? Like people can go and write all sorts of things in all sorts of places and increase their following. The question becomes, are those the right people for what you're building? Like, and I guess like your response is that I don't have to do everything with ROI in mind. I find this fun. I'm doing it. It's enjoyable, and I'll create alpha in other ways. I don't have to create alpha doing this.
Maybe this is Mark Unchained. You know, maybe this idea.
I like that.
Maybe you had this idea. We had. The people, the mythical people that you're speaking for, Asad, that he's like the serious, straight-laced guy, but maybe he's a guy that he just got a Porsche Cayenne. You know, maybe he likes to party a little bit.
I appreciated the toaster, though. I think the toaster probably.
I don't even know what a Ford Flex is. It sounds totally horrible, though.
Fiesta, is that like the next evolution of the Fiesta?
He's the chief fun officer.
Yeah, fair. No, listen, I really appreciate you humoring the question. I do.
No, I love the question. Listen, if anybody that's worked for me knows that I am twice as silly, funny, positive, mess around, goofy than I am serious. The serious side only comes out when I need to have that in order to make a point or to get something to happen. Most of the time, I'm joking around, trying to make people feel trying to make people feel understood, trying to make people like they're having fun, like they're contributing. That's been, if I have a secret sauce, that's been my secret sauce. It's funny. I've helped 7 of my former reps and managers now get their first VP of sales jobs in the last 18 months. And I just talked to the next one, that'll be the 8th. And she called me we were talking and she's like, Mark, you know, listen, it was my favorite part of my career. I learned so much, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but the number one thing about you is when I came to you, I always knew exactly what Mark I was getting. I was getting the Mark that's like, oh, that's what's going on. Tell me more. Explain it to me what's going on. And let's work on this together. And let's have a little fun and not make it so serious. Because it's not fucking life or death. You know what I mean? Like, if we win the deal, we win the deal. If we don't win the deal, we'll win another deal. Like, let's just move on and have some fun and figure it out. If we figure it out, great. If we don't, let's learn from what we didn't figure it out. Well, so that is who I am.
That is the right mindset to go and build a business. And we are excited for what you're building. We wish you the very best of luck. And
thanks for joining on such last minute notice. Really appreciate it. And I'll hopefully see you maybe around the city tonight. Where do you live, by the way?
I still live in State College, Pennsylvania, in Illinois.
You're in State. Wait, are you Penn Stater? Mark, did you go to Penn State?
I went to Penn State.
He's just so excited.
I was supposed to go to the Bowling Green game this weekend. I'm not going to make it. I'm in Philadelphia, Mark. But I get to State College.
So if I say to you guys, we are. Do you know what to say next?
Yeah, Penn State. Well, I say that.
AJ, if you're in town,
I'll be down.
Hook me up. I got a spot for you to stay, brother.
I mean, you're one of like 5 entrepreneurs in State College.
There used to be the Pavilion, the State College Pavilion chapter.
I know another founder up there. My former co-founder of Trendkite is in State College too. So I am.
What's his name?
Well, Matt Allison is is my co-founder. Patrick Brannon was the co-founder and CTO there. So.
Who's your CRO at Trendkite?
At Trendkite, I was the CRO technically, but we had the VP of Sales, Kevin McEwen, eventually came in. We used outreach. We were an outreach customer. So
let's go. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
thanks for ruining the world.
Mark, I appreciate as a founder on this call, I really appreciate you starting a company as well. Like I've said on this show that I am bearish on starting companies right now, and I love hearing founders and how fired they are about starting their businesses. So I'm really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, especially with your busy schedule.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark. See you later.
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Are you coming to GTM 2024 in Austin, Texas this October 14th through 16th? My name is Telda Devlett, and I'm a fractional client success leader. At GTM 2024, I'll be part of a panel discussion diving into leveraging community before, during, and after your job search. We will explore how effective and consistent networking is more important than ever. Whether you're looking to secure your next role or support your long-term growth by cultivating a career board of directors, this session will equip you with the strategies to excel in 2025. So don't wait. Secure your tickets today before they sell out at joinpavilion.com/GTM 2024. And as a thank you for being a Topline listener, you'll receive an extra 15% off your ticket with the code TOPLINE.
And we're back.
Asad, you're feisty.
Feisty? I thought I asked it in like the sweetest way possible. That was feisty?
Yeah, I mean, I think given the group chat, he could have been a lot feistier.
No, I appreciate it. He didn't ask any unfair questions. They were all fair.
I was really trying to ask in the kindest way possible. I really like Mark. Like, that's the Mark that I'd always heard of and knew of. And hey, I
liked his answer. His answer was
fair answer, right? I'm having fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
And I think it'll be interesting to see what they're building. Mats is undeniable. Like, Mats is one of the underrated people in tech and in go-to-market. And I think the combination of these guys is super powerful.
Max is a very, very good business person, in my experience. We should have him on sometime. He'll have some fun things to say.
He has a grind in him that I appreciate. Like this creative, like
grind, but savvy. You know, he's got a schema. Like this. He'll figure out the interesting, cheap way. He's a growth hacker. That's why he called it. His first book was Hacking Sales. The website's called Sales Hacker. Yeah. It's because he's always like, what's the easy, cheap, quick way to do this while somebody else toils on the long way.
Wow.
All right. Well, next topic. Founder mode. Your newsletter just went out. It's in my inbox, Asad. You're calling BS on founder mode. Should we set the table? I think if there's anybody that doesn't know,
why don't you set the table? Because I'm emotionally tied to one side of it. So maybe you.
Well, everybody's going to have strong opinions here. Paul Graham wrote an essay, basically referencing Brian Chesky, who was interviewed. I guess it was like a YC interview where he was talking about this idea that he felt like people were telling him, hire a great team and get out of their way. And oftentimes you hear that the rule of scaling is that you can't insert yourself into every decision. There's a phrase, you guys love my phrases, and there's this old adage in startup land, do you want to be rich or do you want to be king? And the implication is that if you want to be rich, meaning successful, then you have to let go of your Legos. Even First Round Capital wrote a post about give away your Legos, that you have to
That article, by the way, is 10 years old. 10 years old right now.
Wow. Well, there you go. But the point is, like, to scale, you have to hire great people and let them do their thing and get out of the way. And Brian Chesky was saying when he tried to do that, he felt like it almost ruined Airbnb. And so he's moved into a different kind of mode where he reorganized the company so that he has much more direct control. And the impression I got was specifically around product, because Airbnb is effectively a product business among obviously it's a marketplace too, but and that he wanted much more direct oversight into decisions that for a public company you would normally think would be far below the purview of the CEO. And Paul Graham talked about this, and he said, you know what, I'm giving it a name. I'm calling it founder mode. And that there's this whole class of professional managers, and the dominant characteristic or feature of these people is that they are professional liars. And he's very inflammatory in his words, but the point is, you've got these professional managers. They don't actually know what they're doing. They make a mess of things. They have PowerPoint slides, and they went to McKinsey and they went to HBS and they worked at Salesforce, but they don't know what the hell they're doing, and they'll ruin your company. And there's this other way of operating, which is that you can have much more hands-on control over the business. And that, again, people love a heroes and villains story. They love a good old-fashioned conflict where they can fancy themselves the hero against conventional wisdom. And so there's inevitably, just lots and lots of people cheering on this Paul Graham essay and saying, yeah, me too. They told me to get out of the way and they almost ruined it. And things only worked well when I make every decision. Gosh darn it, I'm in founder mode. Yeah. And so then everybody, and so now we're in this place where like everybody's like, but again, this is why I appreciate your take, Asad, but everybody's like, I'm in founder mode. And so, you have this idea. So on the one hand, you have this idea of like, well, how much control over decision-making should CEOs have as they scale? And maybe there's an opportunity for people to lean in and in ways that might be considered micromanagement. And then on the other, there's a lot of mediocre people where they're saying, I'm going to be in founder mode. And it really just means they don't feel like debating. They don't feel like pursuing, the truth. They're going to make big decisions on intuition. And I know that all three of us have, interesting opinions and insights on this issue. But so what we're going to do is we're going to start with AJ. This is just like on Topline Hotline when I see that Asad wants to say something. And that's why, AJ, what's your take on founder mode? And, what was your impression? What's your reaction? How do you distill the issue? Where do you come out on the debate?
I love how much drama this one essay and article has transpired. Asad's going to talk about some of this that he wrote about the us against them mentality. No, first off, it's a 5-minute read. It's a very quick read. And it's frankly, it's an incomplete argument. And
which he admits. He says, I don't even know. He says, I don't know what this thing is. I can't define it precisely for you. Right. It feels like it exists.
Mm-hmm. And he also, the one challenging part is he uses Apple and of course Airbnb as examples. But you think about Paul Graham's world, it's all YC, it's all early stage startups. So it's just, there's one challenge there. The reality of it is, I love the idea of founder mode, and I feel it, and I felt it for 15 years as a co-founder for 15 years. But everyone's going to read his article and take it slightly differently. So how I took it is that there's these big weighing decisions that you as a co-founder just like have in your gut, have your intuition. Something that Mark said that I actually disagree with, which was like just the falling in love with your idea. Like you're being really, he said something to the effect of like, hey, it's an idea is an idea. And I understand that they evolve, but like, I just like passionately think about the idea piece of it all the time. And as a co-founder, I have to have these big things where I just feel something in my gut. And I just want to go do it. And it's really tough for me to verbalize. And this is where I've had to grow as a leader, as a manager, to get better of the mental model that I'm thinking in my head. And how do I communicate that really, really clearly? The reality of the situation is there's both operator mode, manager mode, and there's founder mode. And in my day-to-day...
Let me ask you some questions. So when you're saying this, is your point... For you, founder mode is there are certain decisions that we will not have enough data to make them. And I am going to reserve my right as the CEO to make an intuitive strategic decision, even if it's not backed by data. And that's what founder mode is for you.
Here's a good, I'll give an example of that. There's two-way doors and one-way doors. We both know them, and you use as much data as you possibly can. And I actually made the post about this where Jason Lemkin said, hey, okay, I get founder mode, but like you can't do that with sales. Sales, you have to have 20 operators. They have to have predictable revenue. They have to do these things. And sure. But my argument was like, well, when you go a layer above, you think about distribution. And I could use the example of partnerships. In 2018, HubSpot CRM was doing, I think like 15, 20 million in revenue. Today it's doing $1 billion. Sales Hub is doing $1 billion in revenue. But 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. And like making a bet and placing a bet on distribution of like HubSpot and leveraging that as a partnership, I had to look at signal versus noise, but I also just had to make a gut call on it of like, I think this company culturally and where it is headed is enough to double down as a technology partner. We want to be the premier technology partner for HubSpot. And then that started like the working backwards. But then I got co-conspirators of like people like a Graham Collins who believed that because they could communicate that message and said, look, you go do this and I'll get out of your way. And I will let you like operate that and I'll work with you. I'll support you. But as that scales and that grows, like that's your team. And that's true for every department. We hire, it's one of the three main big priorities is you hire great people and you get out of their way. You build a mission and vision of the company and you don't run out of cash. So I think it's a little bit of a fallacy to say like founder mode is it. And then of course you have it just like Paul Graham says it, hey, if you have never been a operator and you're an investor, and then you're not going to get it. And that's 99.9% of investors. So it was also probably a massive turnoff.
If you haven't been a founder and you're an investor, then you also won't get it.
Yeah, and I don't think that was not the right messaging. But I can argue this with Asad. I don't know. I do truly believe in like the founder mode. But when I read it, I was like, felt like it. But then I've taken some time to reflect on it. I'm like, okay.
But again, what you're saying you truly believe in is the CEO's, the leader's right to make an intuitive decision that isn't necessarily backed by data because they understand the problem space better than anybody else.
Correct. Now, at what scale does that fall down is a question. Is that fall down?
That's the job of every CEO, right? Like that's the issue with it. It's like so here's some thoughts on this. I think this is one of the most ridiculous things that has been published in our ecosystem. And
wow.
And the type of enthusiasm that founders are showing behind it shows that they haven't really sat and actually read through all of it and thought through its implications. And it feels very like, listen, founders are just fist pumping everywhere, right? Founder mode. And the issue is the other side of the spectrum can't say anything because they work for those founders or they are non-founder CEOs that have a board.
Wait a second. Hold on, Asad. Let me put on my founder specific glasses. Let me just make sure I'm listening.
So the other side can't say anything. I can. I don't have a board and I don't have a founder that's fist pumping. So I can say it, which is why I did. But to me, this was extremely polarizing. And if polarization doesn't work anywhere. It doesn't work in politics. It's not good. It's not healthy for a country. It's not healthy for an ecosystem. Show me one company that has become its fullest potential because of just the founder or founders. None. There's no one person S&P 500 company. Not even in it. Forget
but Asad, isn't that the whole point of
Let me explain the thought process. So the idea is that these great companies are built through a partnership between founders and professionals. And the founders do something that is miraculous, right? They start something. They take it from 0 to 1. 0 to 1 is the hardest part of the journey. Founders are special. They made the world better. And it's a really hard journey. I've been a founder. I know the lows of being a founder. It's really hard. It's really hard to be a founder, and we need to cherish them and respect them. And I think as an ecosystem, we do. I don't think this is an ecosystem that looks badly upon founders. But right now, what the founders are doing by saying founder mode is essentially pointing a finger to an entire group of people that are the group of people that align themselves to these founders to help take their visions and build great companies out of them. All these professionals are necessary to become a great company. You need them to join your organization. And of course, I looked at the data. There's 610,000 founders in North America. There's 1.4 million professional managers, directors, VPs, C-level professionals. In that 1.4, there's charlatans. There's some charlatans, right? There are people that are just horrible, incompetent, horrible people. Some just evil, some incompetent. But in the founder cohort are the Sam Bankman-Frieds as well. They're the Bernie Madoffs of the world. There are a lot of charlatans on the other side as well. So when you take the sweeping statement style approach of saying, all these professional managers are such, I think what you end up doing is creating a counter view, which is, well, then let's just paint you by the worst member of your class. I think the word class being in this essay was ridiculous. I think we should not be thinking about this as this class versus that class. It's an us coming together to build companies, and founders play a really important role in that. But in the greatest of companies, the professional managers have played really important roles as well. The Sheryl Sandberg and Mark Zuckerberg partnership is one such example. The crown jewel of Meta is the ad business. She started that business from the ground up. He was disinterested in it or uninterested in it. And so for me, it was problematic because it started polarizing and alienating a group of people that in this moment in time can't say anything in return. But I don't think that type of thought process is healthy. He went on to say something. I'd love your thoughts on it. He's like, you know what the most dangerous thing of this entire thing will be? When non-founders start acting as if they're in founder mode. What does that even mean? So he's like, a non-founder CEO shouldn't go into founder mode, because if it works, it'll work well. But when it doesn't work, it'll be disastrous. What is that statement? What are you saying? The job of a CEO is one job, whether you're a founder coming into that job or not. All three of us have one job. That one job has three pillars: achieve and optimize product market fit, effectively allocate capital, build and enable a great team. There are choices we have to make along the way. One being, how do you organize your company? You can get them wrong. And to try and make the best decisions possible, you should get a variety of opinions. And it would be ridiculous if you're only getting opinions on one end of a spectrum. You should get opinions of people that say one thing versus the other thing. So when it comes to this idea of how do you organize your company, which is what Brian Chesley's talk was about, and he's given this talk 1,000 times. He has chosen a divisional structure, a divisional org structure, which is basically what Microsoft has and other companies have, where you have business units that operate as businesses within businesses. There are pros and cons to it. There are other structures out there as well. So when you're trying to decide which structure should we use, and keep in mind, all of us have a functional org. It just later in your journey, there comes a point where you can choose, should we change that? You should get all the opinions and then you pick one. And whichever one you pick, whether it works or it doesn't work, you as the CEO have to live with that. That's your decision. Just because somebody advocated for another thing and let's say you chose that thing, it's not their mistake. Your job was to go get their opinions. They feel passionate about that area. This felt like founders trying to abdicate the responsibility of bad decisions and celebrate everything that goes well upon themselves, while alienating the people that dedicate their lives to helping them turn their visions into something. And it felt wrong.
May I say something? I think, first of all, product market fit is a very discrete stage that ends. And then after that, you go into go-to-market fit, and then you go to scale fit, and then you go to universal fit. And each of those is, I'm just kidding, because okay,
I was like, I could see Asad about to put a pounce on this.
What are you coming out his ears?
Oh my God.
Angry.
Okay, Asad.
So crazy.
No,
Asad,
hold on.
Go ahead, Sam.
Here's if I were to distill it, because I don't even know that we're disagreeing. What I think the whole point is there's a reaction, in the social network, basically like the folklore that, people go to Zuck when he was a kid and they're like, hey, we'll run the company from here. Thanks so much. And, that's why he got those business cards. I'm the CEO, bitch, because the point is like, no, you don't get to run my company. It's my company. And I think that there are times for all of us as executives, but especially for founders that have built a company, when they feel like they're being patronized a little bit, and they feel like there's decisions that the adults are going to make on their behalf that they don't have a right to make. And I think if they were to distill the essence of this essay, it would be to encourage founders to figure out what are their strengths, where are their intuitive strengths, and to remind them that they have a right to make those decisions, even at a detailed level, in areas that play to their strengths. And, again, the point of like Steve Jobs having a point of view on the glass or the look and shape or the feel, or all of these things that designers and engineers and architects probably would say, listen, Steve, we know better than you, and we know how this is going to work. But I think, to your point, Asad, it doesn't necessarily mean all of that distills down to judgment. I will say, though, that there are definitely times when I have felt like I have delegated an entire process to a group of people, a team. And because just so you all know, I'm in founder mode right now. And so what that means is, first of all, I'm better than non-founders. Well, I'm really better than anybody that doesn't proclaim that they're in founder mode, right? If you say I'm in founder mode, even if you're a non-founder, then you're on my team and you're in my club. But if you're not, then I am against you. But the point is that there are times when I've made when I've delegated certain big chunks of decision making or a department, and then I lean into it again, and I realize, to the point of the essay, I realize, no, that was wrong. Why did you all do it that way? That's a stupid way to do it. We're going to do it this way from now on, and I'm going to make that decision. But to your point, Asad, I don't really think that that's necessarily just like founder versus non-founder.
That's CEO.
But Brian's point is you have more permission, because I saw him explain it, and he said one of the things that the founder has is they have more permission. They have more permission to lean in and exert that influence because it's their company and they have the DNA of it in their bones.
Sam, because he's a founder. Asked Franz Slootman if he feels like he has the same level of permission. He'll be like, I have all the permission I need. He told Doug Leone to talk less in board meetings. Doug Leone.
Well, that was a board, but that was a board member. That's a little bit different. Founders especially first-time founders, have plenty of issues. If you're an experienced CEO, that's completely different.
That's not the point, though. The point is that, do they have extra special juice of some sort? The founder feels they do, but every CEO has a lot of leverage and a lot of pressure. And CEOs have to decide how do I want to organize this business? How involved in decision making? What decisions do I want to be involved in? And sometimes we get it right and we get it wrong. We adjust. I don't think founders have extra permission compared to non-founders because, I don't know, Satya feels like he has all the permission in the world. Franz Slootman has gone into two companies that were earlier on in their journeys, ServiceNow and Snowflake. In both those cases, he became the CEO. The founders were not CEOs of those companies. And so I don't know, I don't think they have some special extra.
I will say the CRO that you mentioned that didn't know how to use Gmail, he was definitely not in founder mode.
Not in founder mode. Do you remember that guy? That guy was so wild.
Awesome. Let me call out some of the things that you said that I mean, they resonate. First off, polarization. If Paul Graham wasn't polarizing, we wouldn't be talking about this essay right now, to be fair. And that, unfortunately, is the reality of our world with culture wars at the political level. It's very much become an us against them. So I don't think Paul Graham had a negative intent or was being.
For God's sake, that is such a weird. How can you say that? How can you make that statement? You want me to read out some of the things he said? Let me read out a few things to you.
You think he was intentionally, by design, calling out specific sets of people in with a negative intent?
Let me quote. C-level execs as a class include some of the most skillful liars in the world. He used the word merely professional managers for anyone that wasn't a founder. This guy was being he was being extra polarizing here. You can't say, he didn't intend to do that. In the last footnote, he says, I also have another less optimistic prediction. As soon as the concept of founder mode becomes more established, people will start misusing it. Founders who are unable to delegate things, etc., or managers who aren't founders will decide they should try to act like founders.
Okay, so he calls out all groups of people, all classes of people in this, then, is the other part of it. Is I don't think he's sitting here saying this side is 100% right, this side is 100% wrong. He's not saying that.
No, he's saying one is much better than the other. He's being clear about it.
Yeah, I know.
I think founders, this is the problem with everybody on the founder mode side, is that they've been fist pumping founder mode, and then you challenge a few of these things and they're like, my interpretation of it is this. It's subjective. It's there. Your interpretation of founder mode can't be some nuanced interpretation of it. If you are saying you're in founder mode, you're saying you're in this mode. You can choose a different terminology for the zone you're in, but marketing is such where when you name it and you frame it, it's yours. Founder mode is his term. He's defined what it means, and he's created a line. So when founders are fist pumping about it, they have aligned to this methodology, this theology maybe. And so you have to choose. Am I that, Or maybe I should come up with something new that's my version of it. I'm going to explain.
Well, okay, hold on. Let me actually maybe also take another step to this, because part of this is where it's mixed into Brian Chesky's talk, and it's really not 100% clear. I mean, I'm going to go back and reread this of what are his words or what he's pulling as themes from Brian's talk.
It's all themes.
Right.
Brian has been so like a gangster about this. Listen, Brian has given this talk 1,000 times. The first time he gave it was at the Figma conference. I've listened to.
Is it recorded?
Yeah, it's all over YouTube. He talks about this. The crucible moment was that it was a divisional org structure where they had business units reporting into him with the GMs essentially of every business unit. And it wasn't working for them. There was too much technical debt. There was too much duplication of effort. It became extremely slow. They were spending too much money. He felt this wasn't working. So he then wanted to shift it. 2020 happened, the business got hit hard. So now he had some freedom to make some choices. He hired a guy out of Apple called Hiroshi. Hiroshi was the VP of Marketing Communications there. It's the same time as which when he engaged Johnny Ive as a consultant. They were like, yo, why don't you do what Apple did? Apple was a design-led culture. You're a designer. Do what Apple did. Apple had a functional org. You know how special a functional org is? All three of us have it. Like, it's a very fun, it's one of the basic ways to organize a company. They like, do that. And now you have one roadmap, not 5 roadmaps. You're going to do less, but you're going to do it really well. And you're the keeper of the roadmap like Steve Jobs was. And he made that shift. And he explains how that shift really was transformative for them. And it was. And he speaks about it. He's like, I made the mistake and I corrected it. And what's really well. He speaks about how hard it was to get everybody on side. It took 2 years to do so. He speaks about how some people were resistant to it. But he's like, this is something that he's spoken about a lot. And I think he takes ownership of his past mistake, and he then takes ownership of the process he went through to fix it. He doesn't blame other people for this.
Here's what I'll pull some of these things together and some of these themes together. I referenced Founder's Dilemma in my Topline newsletter last week, and I don't remember the exact stat. I'm going to say the number that I think it is, but I'm going to go read back and read the chapter. But this is in 2012, and it looks at a cohort of 1,000 companies, founder-led versus not founder-led. And the founder-led companies had, at the end of it, when there was an exit, had like a 4.2x. I think that's the number that sticks in my head. I'm going to go find it. Well, keep me honest. I got called out on the fiscal year stuff last year by like 15 people sent me messages, and then like, oh, you got schooled later in the episode by Asad. So Asad's currently like Googling Founder's Dilemma, founder-led companies exit, but it was something like 4.2x likely higher exit value if it was a founder-led. And we all know this to be true. Like I know this from personal experience.
A ridiculous number. Like
it's not. I don't know. I'm Fred Wilson. There's data that I know that I've read a lot of stuff, especially from Fred Wilson, saying that they prefer that companies with the founder that remain in control. But maybe it's just all attribution bias, because
Sam, if you look at it at different stages in the life cycle of a company, you will find things to validate your thesis. The reality is, look at the S&P 500 of the 10 companies.
I have a related comment.
The majority are not run by founders, by the way.
Yeah, but there's different scale and size.
What about the fact that Airbnb is a crap product?
You had a really bad Airbnb.
I hate that guy so much, and I can't give. And it's all messed up. And anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. I
do want to support one thing. I think there are in technology companies, there is a certain stage in their life cycle where the benefit of having a founder sit on top of the company with maximum control, because I think companies should be run in an authoritative way. I think that is the more probable path to success. I really do. But I don't think across all stages that stays true. I think there are a lot of times where great people can be brought in and they can kill it. As we have seen, Apple and Microsoft have gained more value after their founders were no longer there than when their founders weren't there. Now, that's a pointed statement, right? Because could Apple be Apple without Steve Jobs? Obviously not. I'm not saying it could be. But I'm just saying there are ways to look at this data to validate your points. I think we should respect that founders have an important part to play, but we shouldn't overemphasize the founder and try to alienate the entirety of a group of people that those founders need to become to turn their companies into great companies. That was the problem.
Yeah. Asad, you're the man. I appreciate it. I just had to change my title over here.
I'm the founder of Pavilion. That's
sure.
That is for sure.
I know that.
I remember I was at an event one time. It was at the heyday of 2021, and everybody was, talking about how successful they were. And anyway, somebody was like, we're talking about the success of Pavilion and how Elephant had invested and how there had been an outcome. And they're like, well, do you have any co-founders? And they were hoping I would say like 5 or 6. And I was like, nope. Sorry.
Asad, the reality is our experiences shape us. And I resonate, like everything you're saying is factually correct. You're 100%. I'm not arguing with that. I am saying at 12 years, having been a co-founder where my co-founder was replaced as a CEO, and we were still involved in the first 150 hires, culturally, the decision making, how the CEO of that company leaned on us, for QuotaPath. It's just something I think about in terms of like, hey, this is just we all eat, breathe, and sleep our businesses. That's not to put anyone down, especially as a CEO, like that you just are always on. You're on 24/7. Every company's like that. That's the same. I do believe in this idea that, and I think there's a great podcast on this. I think it's the founder of Spotify that talks about this, of like, there's this bank, this coin bank that a founder gets to like pull from a deposit that like no one else in the company has that. I mean, you referenced something like this earlier.
I think it's if the founder is a CEO. And hence what I think is it's actually a CEO has that. A CEO has a couple of cards you can play. You guys told that story, right? Like you have 3 envelopes and it's like you open the envelopes and it's like 1, 2, and 3. It's like you've got a couple of moves you can make. Every CEO has it. But founders feel it's a founder thing because that's what they know, right? As you said, your thoughts are defined by your path a lot of times. But if that was true, Slootman wouldn't be Slootman, right? So,
yeah. We're at time.
Oh yeah.
Hotels are better than Airbnb.
Yeah, can you tell us your Airbnb story real quick, Sam?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to tell you my Airbnb story. I can't tell it on Airbnb because then I look like a pain in the tush when I write a 1-star review, which is what Aurelian deserves. Aurelian is a piece of poop. He's this guy that rented us this house during August. And, a couple days before, we arrive, he's like, listen, if you want towels, and bed linens like sheets on the bed, that's extra. That's 25 euros per person, by the way. Do you want Wi-Fi? Because that's 35 euros. Did you want air conditioning? Did you want air conditioning? Did you want air conditioning? I'm like, yeah, I want air conditioning. Yeah, I do. He's like, and then he's like, and by the way, you can only use 8 cubic meters of water a week, or I'll charge you extra. Then he said, you have to give all of this. All of your selections you must give in cash to the lady that's going to show up that, of course, doesn't speak English. And so I had to go to the ATM and get, $1,500 in cash. The guy, it's just for me, and I'm sorry, I love all of you Europeans out there, but it just represented like it has nothing to do with being European. It's just this guy Aurelian. He's trapped in a prison. He's trapped in a prison of his own creation, where he thinks that the way to do business is to nickel and dime people and to chisel people. There was nothing in this house. There was nothing. There were no beach towels. Do you understand? There were no beach towels. There was no soap in the bathroom. There was no shampoo. There was no conditioner. Literally, and the lady didn't make the bed. I paid extra for the sheet, and I had to make, and she's like, here's the duvet cover. You can put the comforter inside the duvet. I'm like, that's not a fun thing, as we all know. That's an unpleasant activity.
This is so ridiculous.
This is so, and my point is, like, this guy thinks that this is what business is. Like, how about you're giving somebody a vacation? Why don't you try to make it nice? Why don't you have a little touch to show that you're a professional? He never stays in this house. You're a professional house renter. You're a landlord. Make it nice, you piece of shit. And I'm sorry for swearing. I don't like swearing on this pod. I know that people have their kids, but this guy is an asshole. I wish him nothing, absolutely nothing, but the very worst in life.
God.
So this episode of Topline brought to you by
Airbnb.
I don't think I've laughed this much in a while. This is the wildest human ever.
No, it's so even the people I was with who are very flexible, much more flexible than me because I'm a curmudgeon. They're like, no, this is messed up. This is not cool.
Liz Christo told me about this service called Wonder, which she said is like the perfect match between hotels and Airbnb. Wonder owns the properties. And so you have an expectation of dishware, of your bed getting made, of not having to put your duvet cover together yourself.
I think
with 5-star hotels, like I've never really gone to one and been like, need something different than this. You get everything. Like they cater to your every need.
The counter, they're very expensive. And the point is like, this was seemingly on its face a very good, it's seemingly on it. And that's the point of this product, because they misrepresent the prices. And then they want to make extra cash. So they charge you extra cash. Yeah. By the way, he charged me extra for water. And then one of the people I was with being like, the water level hasn't gone down the entire 2 weeks that we've been here. That must mean that they're charging you for refilling the pool water.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just envisioning Sam going and depositing €5 to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, I want to go home. I want an ice machine. I want
air. Do you feel like because you run a company, you're not ever going to write a bad review? Like none of us will ever do that.
You can't ever write a bad review ever, because then you are perceived by other owners to be a pain in the butt.
Oh, really?
Of course.
I don't believe this at all. I write bad reviews.
I appreciate your strength of conviction and your courage, to be honest with you. But I'm scared to write a bad review.
Yeah, same.
I use a pen name for it, but I still write it.
It's just like the woman shows up and she ended up being fine, a little nice, but she's like, the water meter is hidden behind bushes caked in mud. She's like, go check the water meter and take a picture of it. I'm like, I got to do it? It was just like, I'm like bushwhacking back to the water meter.
Falling under a bush.
Yeah, literally. I'm not kidding. I was like, I just
booked this beautiful thing for your new. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just. Anyway, so I'm like, yeah, I think I'm good with hotels. I think hotels are nice. So that's my story.
Welcome back to the real world, Sam.
Shout outs, wins of the week. This has been a fun episode.
Oh, it's been great. Somebody else. Well, I need a second.
Yeah.
Oof. I did my anti-shout out, so I think that'll be what it is for me. AJ, what about you?
Oh, man. I've had a week. I have, I'm going to do wins of the week. I'm going to do a win of the week, personal win of the week.
Great.
I'm traveling 8 out of 12 weeks for this. I just had 3 weeks of travel. We had company offsite, talked about, I was in Boston last week. The week before that, I was in Chicago for Catalyst. I have Boston coming up. I have Austin for, of course, go-to-market, GTM. I have Miami coming up. And this week, I have just been able to feel like I've been like super heads down and gotten a lot of work done. It's always really great to be home. And then when you're home, feel like you have a routine. And in that routine, just in the mornings, just have like this very clear idea of things that you need to get done. And so I feel very accomplished personally this week. And so this is just a shout out to productivity. Like I write everything down still. And I got everything checked off today, and going into tomorrow, I feel on top of it. I have all of my college friends coming this weekend, so I won't be working this weekend. We're going to watch the Penn State game at my house, hang out poolside. And I'm going to do a brisket in the Big Green Egg this weekend, which I'm super stoked about.
You have a TV outside?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, TV. It's by the hot tub.
Oh my God,
hang out at Casa de Bruno, Big Green Egg. Yeah, you can come. You can, Sam. God. There's always room. I will treat you way better than your Airbnb. I promise. I will only charge you $10. $10 for your sheets.
All you can use.
By the way, these sheets were like cardboard. It wasn't even like.
Are you serious? They weren't great sheets after all that?
No, they were horrible sheets.
Oh my God! I would have beaten him up. I would have found him and lost my mind.
You can go to hell.
So there's my wins of the week.
All right,
Asad, what do you got? No, it's perfect.
One. I think In the newsletter, I highlighted this podcast. It's Brett Taylor on Invest Like the Best. And I think it's a fantastic episode because firstly, Brett Taylor is gangster, CTO of Facebook, co-CEO of Salesforce, was on the board of Twitter, beat Elon in that fight, made him buy it, all of these things. He was running a new AI company. And it was just a really good session on the concept of agents, because we hear the word agents a lot, but what will it mean and how will it work in the near term? We can all pontificate about the future, but near term, what is it? I think he explained it very well. So people should go listen.
Amazing. Who else? A lot of people mentioned, by the way. Oh, Bill Gurley also referenced that same podcast.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening to episode 74. 74? 74. If you could do us a favor and just get 3 or 4 people in your family to subscribe to Topline, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you could buy your tickets to GTM 2024, we're all going to be there. We're going to be jumping out of planes. Kim Scott, as announced as a keynote, talking about radical candor. Benedict Evans from XA16Z is giving a talk about the future of AI and the internet. It's going to be a great show. Hope you can make it.
Right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
This episode was brought to you by AirCall, the business communications intelligence platform. Deliver a better experience for your customers and your teams at AirCall. That's AIRCALL.io. Save time, save money, and improve performance with a single communications platform.
Thanks for listening to Topline. New episodes come out every Sunday. If you like what you heard today, subscribe so you never miss an episode, leave a 5-star review, and share it with your friends. Don't forget to join our Topline Slack channel to connect with us and discuss the topics we cover with other listeners. Click the link in the show notes. Lastly, if you're interested in joining Pavilion, you can learn more about membership at joinpavilion.com/membership. Thanks again for listening.